explore a greener mitten. I'm Teresa Weekly.
And I'm Ellen Baca. For the next half hour, we'll show you what's happening in Michigan with the resources that make our state unique. Most of all, our water. Developers in Ottawa County are running into a problem as they build more homes. We'll look at why this abundant resource has its limits when it comes to drilling wells.
Also, how a farm in Barry County is taking that smelly byproduct of the dairy cows and turning it into something sustainable and profitable. But first, we're talking about funding cuts at the federal level. They've dominated the headlines this year. The Trump administration has a proposal to cut the budget for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, by billions of dollars.
It has scientists across the country worried about what that will mean for their research and cleanup efforts.
Kathy Evans is a board member for the Muskegon Lake Watershed with decades of experience in conservation. She said they've been working to have NOAA declare the areas where our rivers empty into Lake Michigan as a NOAA estuary. These funding cuts could put that at risk.
It's important for us because Muskegon Lake, for example, White Lake are areas of concern. They've been cleaned up. There are other estuaries coming into eastern Lake Michigan that need cleanup, need science to better figure out how to manage these resources. And if we don't get that information through the estuary program, we won't know how to manage our natural resources as well.
She's also concerned about the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, which is up for renewal in Congress this year. Not renewing that in full could impact important projects along our lakeshore.
Things that would stop would be, invasive species control, resiliency, stopping erosion on the shorelines, fish and wildlife habitat would be impacted. Contaminated sediments would not be cleaned up. And that affects our drinking water, our public health, our recreation, our commercial fishery, everything.
When you are surrounded by as much fresh water as we are in Michigan, you might find it hard to believe Ottawa County is running out of it.
Yeah, News 8's Amber Kriska has a look at what's happening right under our feet.
We have residents that are literally running out of water. They don't necessarily believe it.
From streams to lakes, of course, Lake Michigan, the 7th largest county in Michigan, should be overflowing with water. With more than 300,000 people, Ottawa County is one of the fastest growing in the state. New homes and businesses in rural areas all depend on wells.
It's about 3 billion gallons of water a year are used in Ottawa County to simply irrigate turf grass.
For years, Paul Sachs, Director of Strategic Impact for Ottawa County, has been trying to inform and educate people in the county about what's happening below.
Does it have to get worse for it to get better? And that's what we need to get in front of.
There are two ways people in Ottawa County get their water: through a municipal system, which uses water from Lake Michigan, or from private wells, drawing water from underground aquifers. Because there are a lot of rural areas, most people use well systems. Many of these wells get their water from the glacial aquifer, which refills itself naturally from rain and snow. In some places, the glacial aquifer is too shallow, so wells have to be drilled deeper, reaching into the Marshall Aquifer, which is separate from Lake Michigan and takes a very long time to refill. As demand continues to rise, the water is drying up, and wells need to be drilled deeper, reaching down even lower where mineral content is high. Sachs takes me to a monitoring well at Allendale Public Schools. It's one of 15 sites across the county. The county is collecting data and materials to see what's happening with the water system.
When it rain falls, how is the Marshall charging when we're pumping water? What does that do with the static water levels? And we can start to do scenario planning.
The deeper you go, the more gravel you get.
And we've got these each marked from 0 to 15 feet. Up to 165 feet deep, and you can start to see the difference. That is impermeable. Water can't get through it. And look at the depth. This is a very large clay lens that's preventing any water from getting any deeper.
We're going to have that extend deeper into the water.
Steve Hexel, owner of Hexel Brothers Well Drilling, knows what's going on below. His company has received plenty of calls over the years from people having water problems.
The typical call we get, somebody calls up, yeah, water was working fine yesterday, but woke up this morning and they don't have any water.
Hexel says with some wells they've drilled in the last 10 years, they've already had to go back and put pumps deeper.
And a lot of those areas where we see a lot of heavy development, new homes.
At this call, his team is there for a shallow well.
We're trying to reconstruct this well to make it more usable, and hopefully spring rains and everything brings the water table back up to where it should be.
That has been one of the biggest challenges that we're dealing with on this groundwater issue in the county is the general public understanding what is happening. We have access to water. We have Lake Michigan. We could extend municipal water supply to residents that need it. And as new developments happen, we could connect them to a municipal water supply.
But extending infrastructure is costly.
And in order for local governments to pay for that new infrastructure, you have to have more and more connections on it.
Sachs says there's really not an easy solution, but they are urging residents to be more water-wise as they search for a large-scale solution that makes sense.
That was Amber Kriska reporting. Now, Sachs also told her the county is leading by example on landscape design. They removed most of the turf grass at the Fillmore complex, replacing it with native grasses and plants. We're going to talk more about that coming up. He says that saved 227,000 gallons of water last year and $6,000 in landscape maintenance costs.
Yeah. The future of recycling in Kent County has been on hold until now. Still ahead, how waste managers plan to move forward to avoid building another landfill.
But first, how the owners of a farm in Freeport are making sure methane from their cows doesn't end up in the atmosphere. Welcome back. There are a lot of issues with landfills. One is the methane they produce. When it makes it into the atmosphere, methane traps up to 36 times more heat than carbon dioxide.
That's what has a stronger influence on global warming. Cows are another big methane producer. And if you think that the only thing that their manure can fuel is a pipe dream, you should see what's happening at a farm in Freeport.
The owners took inspiration from Europe decades ago to get on the cutting edge of sustainable farming. And now they're taking that even further with zero waste. There's nothing glamorous about life on a dairy farm. Least of all what the cows leave behind. This might be the most disgusting thing I've ever seen.
This is like the temporary holding pit, if you will, for all the manure coming out of the barns.
This manure marsh, or technically lagoon, is a poo paradise to the owners. Not a drop goes to waste. Instead, it helps power an operation that includes more than 3,000 cows.
The solids get separated here.
Norma Lawson helps run Brookview Dairy. Her brother bought the farm in 2004.
He has always tracked what has been going on in terms of advanced manure management and sustainable farming practices. So in 2004, he and I went to Europe, where in Germany alone, there's 8,000 of these digesters. So we looked at every kind of technology.
Before the biodigester, the farm would take raw manure and spread it in the fields.
There's still some pathogens in that manure, fly larvae, so not the most neighbor-friendly thing to put on the fields. And the digester eradicates, 90 to 95% of each of those negative aspects of the manure.
Here's how the digester works. Brookview pumps the manure from the lagoon underground into this building.
This is the heat exchanger, and this is where the waste heat from the electric generators helps to preheat the manure.
From the heat exchange, it goes into one of these 3 green tanks, the biodigesters.
Those tanks are kept at a controlled temperature, typically between 98 degrees Fahrenheit and maximum of about 104 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay.
That's ideal for mesophilic anaerobic digestion.
The process kills off bad bacteria and breaks down the material, leaving the gas to rise to the top. That portion moves through more pipes into a purification system. It goes in as only 55% pure methane, but the system separates it.
And now you've got a nearly pure methane stream, 99% plus purity, and that's what then becomes your renewable natural gas.
What's left at the bottom of the biodigester goes through another separation process that leaves behind solid fibers. The farm uses some of it as bedding for the cows. A grant last year allowed them to start a new business, turning the rest of the leftovers into compost.
It'll be 140 to 150 degrees on the inside of this pile.
And that's why you see the steam when they go down the line. The compost goes back into the farm's 3,500 acres of fields, which helps grow the corn that feeds the babies and the moms, and the process starts all over again. You can find out where to buy the soil from their more recent composting operation. It's in this story on our website. But the farm sells the gas to a virtual pipeline. The biodigester also generates up to 12 million kilowatt hours of electricity per year. That's enough to power up to 1,000 homes, Ellen.
And if we're talking energy, we have to talk about artificial intelligence. It's rapidly growing all across the world, and it takes a ton of energy. This might surprise you to know, but one ChatGPT search uses 10 times the amount of energy as a single Google search. And in order to do these data computation amounts in such high volume, we need data centers. Data centers are starting to spread across the world in big quantities, and not only do they use tons of energy, they also use a lot of fresh, clean water. It can't be dirty water. It has to be cleaned, the same kinds that we drink. And it's run through these computational systems to keep the equipment cool. So AI centers, these cloud centers, are using a lot of energy and a lot of water. What's more, we're seeing more and more of them. In fact, if we look at how many have been added to the planet, if we look at 2012, we had about 500,000 data centers worldwide. But in 2025, that number increased to 8 million data centers worldwide. Here's the thing about AI, though. With these data centers, we have a huge strain on energy, but we also have the opportunity for some really great environmental breakthroughs. AI has been proven to run homes at 40% less carbon rates. It also has been helping to optimize water use for farmers and help with airplane paths to reduce the amount of clouds that are produced in the sky. So all of these benefits will have to be weighed in with the heavy environmental cost. If we keep burying our garbage in landfills, eventually we'll run out of room. Coming up next, what the plan is in Kent County to do better with what we throw away.
And waste not, want not, how the owner of a business in Kalamazoo is making the most of the plastic that ends up in the garbage. Still ahead on A Greener Mitten.
It's one of the most talked about pollutants, between microplastics infecting our food and water and massive piles of it floating in the ocean. Fighting plastic pollution can feel a little hopeless.
News 8's Duncan McLean unpacked the problem and the solutions that can make a real difference.
More than 9.1 billion tons of plastic has been produced since it was invented in the 1950s, and 79% of that is still in its original form. In the United States alone, we go through 50 billion single-use bottles every year, plus sandwich bags, straws, and cling wrap, or even the less obvious, like the trace plastics used to bind together paper coffee filters, or those that appear in your shampoo, hair gel, and makeup. Of all the hundreds of millions of pounds wasted every year, analysis published by The Hill indicates that almost a quarter is produced by just 5 companies.
So those are the scary statistics for plastic pollution here in 2025, and those figures not exactly run up by individual consumers. That doesn't mean, though, that you can't make a difference on your own, especially fighting plastic pollution in your community.
I truly believe that you can. Yes, we have the top 10 corporate polluters in the world that are just pumping all of these things out. I personally don't have the strength or ability to fight them, but there are people out there that are, right? There's other large organizations that are doing good things and doing good work. And so what I know I can control is myself.
Jessica Thompson owns and operates Be Joyful in Kalamazoo, a shop where you can make that first choice to reduce plastic waste in pretty much any direction you'd like.
There's so many different ways that you can do that, and it usually starts with something really small. So we have lots of options, from normal to really crunchy, if you will.
Those range from homemade soap to refillable laundry detergent, reusable food bags, coffee filters, even cleaning supplies. All of those, removing one plastic container or toxic chemical from watersheds, ball fields, and walking paths in your neighborhood.
Oh, always gets me emotional because our community is amazing. It really is amazing. So I can doom scroll and see all of the programs that are being shut down or things that are happening out there, and it's very heavy. It's very heavy, and it feels bad in this eco space right now. Things may be heavy, but when you look for the people that really, truly care, you're going to find them.
Duncan McLean, News 8.
So putting all of our garbage into the ground and burying it is the most common way to handle waste right now, but it's not the future. Kent County waste managers are moving forward with a plan that will make much better use of the things we throw away. We talked to the director of public works for the county about the sustainable business park they've been working on. After a delay about a year ago, they're designing the infrastructure for the park now, and they hope to start building in about a year. The goal is to eventually have a new transfer station where all garbage goes through a sorting process, separating anything that still has use.
We just built our North Kent transfer station. We're now collecting and processing and pulling more and more material out of the trash there. We're looking to do the same at the South Kent transfer station. The South Kent landfill will be ready to close in about 2030. So we'll need a couple of years ahead of that to go into design, permit, construction.
The county also recently started collecting metal materials at the waste-to-energy facility where they burn garbage to turn it into electricity. Boss said they've found enough metal in the last year to build 2 Mackinac bridges.
Wow.
Which is hard to believe. You can read about that and how the director plans to turn the organic waste in our garbage into renewable fuel on our website.
Want to save time and energy while maintaining a beautiful lawn? We have lawn alternatives you might like better than the standard sod. Now, before we wrap things up, we want to share something fairly simple that you could do to contribute to a greener mitten and maybe make your life a little easier at the same time.
Win-win. So turf lawns, the grass that most of us have, they guzzle water, they require toxic chemicals, they don't offer much for pollinators. It's a high-maintenance, low-benefit choice.
And here are 3 alternatives. So up first, this is creeping thyme. It's very pretty, it's very easy to plant, and you can put it in a lot of sunny areas with sandy soil, which sometimes is spots that grass doesn't take to anyway. And you only have to water it every 10 days or so, which is a huge benefit because in West Michigan, we usually see it rain before it gets to that 10-day mark.
So you could potentially not have to water it at all.
Exactly. Low maintenance. I love it. Now, if you don't want to do any mowing, this is a phenomenal option. Microclover. This propagates well, so that means if you plant it, it will spread pretty quickly across your lawn. You don't even need to worry about fertilizing it. It's great as an alternative to turf grass because it's soft underfoot and it doesn't grow too high.
I know those 2 are not native to Michigan. Is there a native option?
Yes, and this is one of my favorites. So this is called sedum, and this wouldn't be a lawn replacement. This would just be something to reduce the amount of sod in your yard. But sedum is deer resistant. It's a native plant. It's great for the environment, and you can plant it anywhere, and it will do just fine.
Those are all beautiful options, too.
Yes, there's so many more, too. So if you want more suggestions, make sure to just head to our website. Now, research shows that if just 50% of people in Michigan recycled and saved water, the impact would be pretty significant. Finding an alternative to your grass lawn is one way to cut down your water usage, but you can also make sure that you don't let your faucet run unnecessarily and make sure you run a full load of laundry.
Economically, using less energy can also create more opportunities for new industries, creates a demand for smarter tech and companies that turn waste into value like composting services or sustainable packaging.
Clean water is also essential for public health. By diversifying water sources, we can also be more resilient when it comes to potential droughts.
A little bit can make a big difference. Thank you so much for watching as we showed you all these possibilities for a greener mitten.
Happy Earth Week.